Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to examine the 4 marking criteria for IELTS speaking exam that you need to know before you sit for the IELTS speaking exam. Sit down, relax as we begin. In my previous video, I have taken my time to explain to you the individual things that come together to make up the IELTS exam. In this video, I am going to focus more on the IELTS speaking test and the 4 specific marking criteria that you must understand to be able to pass your IELTS speaking exam. If you understand these 4 marking criteria, it will help you to be able to tailor your answers in such a way that you'll be able to pass your exams one touch and get a band score not less than 7. In the IELTS speaking exam, there are 4 basic marking criteria that if you understand and you're able to deliberately infuse these criteria into your speaking, there is no way any examiner can fail you. Let's start from number 1. Number one, fluency and coherence. Fluency and coherence is one of the marking criteria when it comes to the IELTS speaking. Fluency and coherence simply talks about how structured and organized your speech is. Are you able to flow in your conversation? And is your conversation well organized and structured? Are you able to make sense to the examiner as you are trying to speak? Do you have breaks in your communication? Are you able to use the right technique in pausing? Do you know and use linking words in your speech? If you're able to infuse all these things in your IELTS speaking, it will make your speech stand out and you will get the required band score. Let's talk, for instance, examples of signposting words that you have to incorporate in your fluency and coherence include the following. If you are asked by the examiner to tell them about the ingredients you need to be able to prepare a particular soup, you can say that. The ingredients that I need to be able to prepare bitter leaf soup include the following. This is a clear example of signposting. You are telling the examiner that you are about to mention something. So you are signposting the examiner to the information you are about to give. So that is an example of signposting. We can also talk about linking words. To be able to make your language rich and to be able to make your ideas well structured, you have to make use of linking words. Linking words that will link your sentences together and make them appealing so that the examiner will understand that you know what you're talking about. Example of linking words include however, moreover, to add to that, but, just to mention but a few. Number 2. The number 2 marking criteria in the IELTS speaking exam is your lexicon resource. How rich is your vocabulary? The vocabulary simply talks about the quantity of words that you have stored in you. What is the quantity of words that you have in you? To be able to pass your IELTS speaking, you need to be able to read a lot and have a lot of words that you can use at will. You should not struggle when you are trying to find an alternative word to use in a particular sentence. And what you have to do to be able to enrich your vocabulary resource is to avoid repeating words, especially when those words have been used already in the sentence. If you are going to talk about cheap in a particular sentence, instead of saying cheap, you can talk about inexpensive or affordable. These are all words that you can use so that you can avoid using the same word throughout the sentence. Another area that you can use to boost your vocabulary resource is you being able to freely talk about different topics without struggling. Many of us tend to focus on specific topics, and when we are taken out of that particular topic, we are lost for words. We are not able to freely use words that are able to convey the meaning that we are talking about. When talking about your lexicon resource, you should try to learn more about various topics like football, like aviation, like politics, like journalism and the press. There are individual words in all these subject matter that if you are not able to study and understand these words, you will not be able to get a very good score when it comes to your lexicon resource. When you are talking about football, the one who officiates a football match is called a referee. So you should be able to use that particular term when you are talking about football. In the same manner, It is pastors who officiate weddings or a clergyman. So the leader of a church is a pastor. Or you can also talk about the one who writes newspaper articles is called the editor. The one who presents news is a newscaster. Don't go there and say a news reader. If you are able to use these words in their right places and discuss freely individual and different topics using the right words, you will go a long way to boost your vocabulary resource. And I will encourage you that if you have plans of writing your IELTS exam, you should be a student of novels. You should be a student of every literature that will come your way. Read wide and broaden your horizon. Broaden your thinking so that you will not be limited to only a few topics within your range. Another way by which you can boost your lexical resource is to apply the technique of idiomatic expressions. Idiomatic expressions go a long way to enrich your language. It makes you stand out and makes the examiner understand that although you may not be a native English speaker, but you have learned the language and you know what it is all about. And idiomatic expressions like, he has kicked the bucket, or he speaks for England. And idiomatic expressions like, the person speaks for England simply means that the person talks a lot. Or if I want to say, I want to spend a penny, it simply means I want to go and urinate. Most often than not, if we use these idiomatic expressions, it makes our language rich and anyone listening to us will want more. So try to incorporate a lot of idiomatic expressions in your lexical resource. That way, your speaking exam will stand out and you'll be able to get at least a band 7 in the speaking exam. To add to that, in the IELTS speaking exam, as far as lexical resource is concerned, try to use only formal language. Try to avoid informal or street language. Avoid language that does not convey any form of formality. You do not go talking about slang words, or try to use the contracted form of words. Try to speak in a formal manner. That way, your English language will look mature for the examiner to be able to assess you. Number 3. The number 3 component of the IELTS marking criteria is your pronunciations. How do you pronounce your words? Do you sound natural or do you sound unnatural? Try to work on your pronunciations if you know so well that you are not very good at pronunciations, because it is going to be marked. The examiner is going to be focused on how you pronounce your words. If you have words that you find it difficult to pronounce them, the trick I will suggest to you is to record yourself pronounce such words. If you pronounce those words, listen to it and see how you sound. If you realize that you are not sounding natural like the way others sound when they pronounce such words, then you need to work on yourself. Another way by which you can learn how to pronounce words properly is by typing such a word into Google. When you type such a word, there is a column in Google where they will ask you that, do you want it to be pronounced? If you press that button, it will pronounce the word just as it is supposed to be pronounced. Working on your pronunciation is going to take you way further into scoring at least a band 7 in your IELTS speaking. Another area by which you can boost your pronunciation is to use correct form of intonation. The way you sound when you pronounce words is simply known as intonation. Do you pronounce words naturally, or they do not sound natural when you pronounce them? Do you have high pitch when pronouncing certain words when you are supposed to have low pitch, or the reverse is true? Working on your intonation is very, very important if you have plans of passing your IELTS speaking exam and for you to be able to get a band score of at least 7 in the IELTS speaking test. Try to be understood by the examiner. Do not make the work of the examiner complicated. Try to pronounce your words in a very simple manner so that anybody listening to you will understand exactly what you are talking about. Number 4. The number 4 marking criteria as far as your IELTS speaking exam is concerned is your grammatical range. How good is your grammar? Are you able to speak sentences without any grammatical errors? Try to keep your grammatical errors to the barest minimum. Try to use tenses in their correct structure. Use direct speech and indirect speech in your language. Examples of direct speech is when you are trying to quote someone. When you are trying to quote someone, make it very clear and speak as if it is the person who is speaking and reference it. For instance, when I met James yesterday coming back from the market, he said, "I am hungry. I need something urgently to eat." And I told him, "There is no food right now. You need to wait for it to be prepared before you can eat." That is an example of direct speech. And if you had to write that, you would have had to use quotation marks to show that you are quoting the person directly. So that is an example of direct speech. If you're able to incorporate it into your speaking, it will help to boost your scores. Indirect speech is just the opposite of the direct speech. In this particular case, you are reporting what somebody said. For example, James said that he was hungry and he needed something right now to eat. And I told him that he needed to wait patiently for food to be ready before he will eat. Those are examples of direct and indirect speeches. Also try to remember to use the correct tenses in your speech. Remember your present tense, your past tense, your future tense, and all that. Incorporate them into your language. It will help to boost your score. Do not wait for the day of the exam before you can deliberately bring all the 4 marking criteria into your IELTS test. It may be too late. Try to use them as early as possible. That way, it will make your language to stand out. Apart from direct speech, indirect speech, and the correct use of tenses, also use conditional sentences to make your language stand out. Conditional sentences are sentences that depend on what the subject will do or not do. If today were to be a market day, I would have done this. I will do this only and only if he agrees to pay me. These are all examples of conditional sentences. Using them accurately in a sentence will make your speaking test stand out, and I will encourage you to incorporate all that in your speaking test. So, today we have been looking at the 4 marking criteria of your IELTS speaking exam. And I encourage you that if you're able to incorporate all these things, you will get a score of not less than 7 in your IELTS speaking test. So how is your IELTS speaking test marked? So all the things you will say in your IELTS speaking exam is broken into these 4 components. If you had a 7 out of 9 in your fluency and coherence, it means you're already halfway there. The same applies to all the individual components that are there in the remaining ones. You need to get at least a 7 in your fluency and coherence, your Lexicon Resource, your pronunciation, and your grammatical range. If you get a 7 in each of these domains, it means that you are already halfway there. They will add all the 7s in each of these domains, making 28, and divide everything by 4. That is, they are going to take an average of all your score in the individual marking criteria. So if you get 28 from adding all these components and divide it by 4, it means that you have gotten a band 7 in the IELTS speaking exam, and that is a pass. If you get a 7 in the pronunciation, in the Lexicon Resource, in your fluency and coherence, and your grammatical range, you are already halfway through your IELTS exam, and you have already made it. So I encourage you to try to learn more about what the marking criteria is. You'll be writing the exam in darkness and you don't know exactly how to prepare for it if you do not know what really goes into the marking. And I encourage you that if you watch this video and you also do your homework very well, nothing will stop you from getting your IELTS passing mark. If today is your first time of watching my videos, please click on the subscribe button and the notification bell. Also press on the like button to encourage me to do more videos. You can also ask your individual questions in the comment sections so that I'll be able to know exactly what my next video should be. You can also ask a question and that question may form the basis for my next video. Thank you very much for your time and I wish you all the best in your IELTS speaking exam. In my next video, I shall continue to tell you more about what you need to be able to pass your IELTS exam on your very first attempt. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye-bye.